Kick-ass facts, but pew pew pew! Resistance is still futile. Why was the waltz considered scandalous when it was first introduced in the 18th century? A. It was danced without music. B. It required dancers to remove their shoes. C. It was performed in secret during religious ceremonies. Or D. It allowed couples to hold each other closely. The correct answer is D. Religious leaders condemned the close hold and spinning movements as immoral, but its popularity grew despite the controversy. When coffee was first introduced to Europe in the 16th century, it was condemned by some religious leaders as a bitter invention of Satan. I mean, I've been called the same. Pope Clement VIII reportedly tasted coffee and decided it wasn't evil, which helped it gain acceptance. In 17th century Europe, coffee houses were initially viewed with suspicion. Religious and political leaders condemned them as places of rebellion, loose morals, and idle gossip. Coffee houses later became the hubs of intellectual and political change. When opera first gained popularity in the 16th and 17th centuries, it was heavily criticized by religious leaders and moralists. They believed the combination of music, drama, and sometimes lavish costumes would corrupt audiences and lead to debauchery. I love the word debauchery. I'm sad I don't have more occasion to use it in real life. In the 13th century, eyeglasses were viewed with suspicion. Religious and philosophical views at the time often held that physical ailments and aging were part of God's will, and using any new technology to counteract them would be challenging the divine plan. What did critics think radio would do to families in the early 20th century? A. Encourage children to rebel against their parents. B. Spread dangerous propaganda and disrupt family communication. C. Cause health issues from radio waves. Or D. Replace books entirely. The correct answer is B, spread dangerous propaganda. When radio became a household fixture in the early 20th century, critics worried it would disrupt family life. Parents lamented that children were spending too much time listening to broadcasts instead of doing their chores or studying. Religious leaders also feared it would spread secular or immoral ideas. Critics also thought it would isolate people by replacing in-person conversations. When crossword puzzles first became popular in the 1920s, they faced significant resistance and criticism from certain segments of society, including educators, intellectuals, and journalists. They dismissed crosswords as a frivolous, short-lived trend, believing that they lacked intellectual value and were merely a passing craze. Some educators worried that crosswords would degrade proper language skills. They argued that puzzles encourage people to think in fragmented words rather than full sentences, and feared this might lead to a decline in proper spelling and grammar. A few critics suggested that excessive time spent on crossword puzzles could lead to mental strain or nervous disorders. Employers complained that workers were distracted by crossword puzzles, particularly as they gained popularity in newspapers. There was a concern that productivity was suffering because people spent time solving puzzles during work hours. Some newspapers, especially prestigious ones like the New York Times, initially refused to publish crosswords. The New York Times referred to crosswords as a sinful waste and a primitive form of mental exercise. Crossword puzzles were seen as a symbol of modernity, and some traditionalists viewed them as part of a large cultural shift they disapprove of, which also included jazz and short skirts. So the next time you hear someone complain that social media is the downfall of modern society, remind them that people said the same thing about crossword puzzles, and radio, and TV, and rock music, and computers. People hate new things until they're not new anymore.